Hello everyone, it's Dr. Barden here. You'll see my actual face in a future video. I'm just recording this at home and don't have my green screen set up and don't want you to judge me for how messy the rest of this room is. So this video is going to be kind of a tour of the Max environment. I'm going to kind of break it up into a few smaller chunks, but this is going to be everything that we kind of cover on our second meeting of the year as we start diving into Max. So by default, when you launch the program, you're going to get the console here, and it's not going to give you a lot of info. You may see a good amount of stuff pop up depending on what kind of packages and plugins and things you have installed on your computer. So the actual text contents here may look a little bit different. But if you hit Control or Command N or just File New Patcher, you'll get the Patcher window right here. And this is the window where everything happens. So I'm going to close this out, and this is the kind of default size. It's not a very large program, but if you want to, you can make it bigger. So I'm going to do that right here so you can see everything that's going on. Oops, let me get my little cursor highlighter here just to make it a bit easier. So there's a wonderful diagram in the textbook that kind of shows pretty much all of this in one concise picture. So definitely, if you haven't got the textbook already, go ahead and work on getting that. 'Cause again, it's got a lot of useful information in there. So this big square, the bulk of this window, is where we will be creating our Max patches and where we can place different objects and things here in order to create whatever it is we're gonna create. So this is super important, and again, the main bulk of what we do is going to be here in this square. So I've got that there. You'll notice that there are some toolbars kind of all around each of the sides here. So this is where you can find a lot of quick access stuff. So I'm just going to kind of go clockwise around here. So first thing right here, you can control the zoom level. So once we start putting in a bunch of objects, you can zoom in or zoom out to see more or less of the patcher at any given time. These next few things are all for putting specific objects into your patcher. These are all the most kind of common objects. So right here we just have a blank object right here. So if you click that, the object will pop up, but it's not going to be anything specific. You have to type in what object you want. And we'll go through all of them, but if you start typing, then a lot of the objects that you have here will start to auto-populate in this list. So again, if you have a whole bunch of add-ons installed, you'll see extra things here. But again, you can click it there if you see the one you want. It'll go right there and load in. You can also sometimes add additional values after the name of the object in order to get it initialized in a specific way. We'll dive into that. Next to that, we have a message box right here. This is where you can kind of store and send different data. So this is where we could, type a message, you can send values to certain objects, you can look at things. It's super handy, but it's not actually like generating any sound or processing a lot of stuff by itself. Next to that, we have a comment. So here we have a comment, and this doesn't really connect to anything. This is just, it's a comment. You can put it next to different things in order to kind of label stuff, see what's going on, and just help to organize your patch. Over here, we have a toggle. This is, it's a toggle. If we go into here, if you click on it, it lights up the X. And you can use that for a lot of things. It's kind of just like an on and off switch, like a light switch in your house. So that's useful for creating a lot of data flow there, or again, turning things on and off. Again, it's just like you would use a light switch in your house. Next to that, we have buttons. And you'll notice that from here on, they have little drop-down menus. So if you click on this, you'll get the default button first right there. But again, a toggle, it's kind of buttons with text, tabs, You can have images or certain kinds of switches, things that simulate LEDs with colors, matrices. There's the picture one, a whole bunch of different kinds of buttons. I'm just going to use the default one, this button here. It's probably going to be the most common you use. It's just a button. You click on it, and you've pressed a button. It is whenever you click it, it usually just sends out a message called a bang, which is used to trigger a bunch of stuff, and it's kind of like, hey, do something. This is kind of how it's used a lot in Macs. So you'll probably hear me call this a bang object a lot as well. So just know that that's what I'm talking about right there. Number boxes right here, if we click on that, there's a few different options. So the first one, it just displays an integer number, and it will output it out the bottom so you can send it to control different stuff. A floating point number is a number with a decimal value after it, so it's not an integer, it's got decimals after it there. And then number with the little tilde after it. Excuse me, got a little choked up there. The number with the little tilde after it is used to output things at the signal rate, so you can monitor different kinds of signals and generate things. Any object that has this little tilde after the name is going to output stuff at the signal rate. So at that 44,100 times per second, it's basically outputting audio. So I'll get into those connections and how you can kind of tell what's going on with that in a little bit. But after numbers, we get sliders. So in sliders, it's like a fader on a mixer or a knob, things like that. You can control a variety of values. So, slider, it'll output some values here. If I just connect that up, we can see it's giving us a range of numbers, and we can control it that way. There's again the ones we have here, some dials and knobs, gain control, keyboards. They can be used for MIDI. Whole bunch of different kinds of sliders. They're kind of relevant factors that again they can provide a multitude of outputs with a concise little graphic interface. Add an object. This is where you can basically have certain objects that you want to have just easily accessible right here. You can just add them to there, and you'll see them appear in the list. Again, here's some specific ones that are really commonly used here. Other ones, and like I said, I believe you can add to them if you'd like. I don't use this one a ton, but again, these are just other really common objects here. So actually, I'll actually have to look into whether or not you can add to them. But again, really common objects all right here. Here's where you can do some formatting and things like that. I literally never use this, and you'll probably never see me use it right over there. Over here, calendar, it's, well, a calendar. Again, this is something I literally never use, and we're not going to be diving too much into it. Over here on the right, opens up a lot of different panels and things like that that are useful. So if we click on this little search bar, this is where we can start to find a variety of things. So if I type in cycle tilde like before, this is everything in Max related to that cycle tilde object. So you can see there's the object here, other ones that have that in the name or are related to it. Documentation, so we've got different kinds of references and things of that nature. There's a whole lot of options there because it's a very common object to use. Little examples and snippets of patches, plugins that use it. Heck, it looks like even some various like article and social media posts. This is a very broad search tool right here. It's handy, but again, I don't use it a ton. What I do use a lot over here is the inspector. So if you select an object, let's pick our little button here, I'll make it bigger. You'll see a bunch of stuff pops up, and this is where you can control a lot of things here about how it looks and how an object behaves. So again, we've got the behavior, you can have it ignored with the click, you can change how it looks. This is real handy for creating stuff. So maybe I want the background to be this kind of bright yellow, and the blink can be, I don't know, we'll make it this really dark blue. So now when we click on it, we've changed how that looks. So that's a great way to create a little graphic interface for what's going on. You can change again different parameters, how it behaves. If I went to my slider here, you can control the range of the slider, minimums, maximums, bunch of stuff of that nature. So again, this is where you can really customize some of the objects that you have in your patch. Moving down, references. This is a lot more handy, I find, than just the general search. So if you select an object, I've got that cycle selected again. The reference here is all the reference info for that cycle objects. This is all stuff related specifically to whatever selected object you have. So if I click on different ones, you see it changes, but generally you can see there's the arguments. These are values you can type after the name in order to initialize it in a specific way. You can send messages to the object to control it. Down here, you've got related objects and tutorials, things of that nature. Again, this is a lot more relevant, I find, than stuff in the search bar. Down here, you have the console. This is that window that opened up initially. Something happened with a Node script while I wasn't looking, but you can use this to have different messages pop up, just like a terminal or a computer console. So let's just say I'll make a print. You saw a bunch of stuff popped up here. Looks like I've just got multiple. I may have a few duplicate things installed, and that's what it gave me that for. But if I just connect this value here, now if I move this, you'll see that the value is appearing in the console. So this is very handy for monitoring different aspects of your patch and just being able to see data right here. Snapshots, you can again take snapshots of your patches, save them, load them, view them. That's what we got there. Again, I don't do that a ton in what I do. All right, let's get the console out of the way. Down here, this is the audio meter. So when you start playing audio in your patches, you'll see this light up here to represent the left and right audio, and you can click this little dot in order to adjust the volume of what's playing. Down here, this power button toggles audio on or off. So if it's on, audio can play in the patch. If it's off, it can't. That's super handy because sometimes you don't want to have audio playing all the time, especially if you're in the middle of creating a patch, testing stuff, connecting a bunch of things. It can be annoying at best if you have audio on all the time. Global transport, if we click that there, you'll see that it's kind of ticking around in a circle. It's just kind of, basically it's a clock that you can use to sync up a bunch of stuff, again, globally in your patch. So that's handy. I haven't used it a ton, but like I said, it's handy. Working our way around on the other side of the bottom here, we have assign key map and assign MIDI map. Now, the company that makes Macs, Cycling 74, is owned by Ableton. And if you've used Ableton Live in the past, this is going to look really familiar. So if I click this, you'll notice that everything not everything, but a lot of stuff has toggled to this kind of orange color. So if I click on that, enable for mapping, we can set that there and it kind of lights up. And if I can hit a key on my keyboard, and you see this little dot pops up indicating there's a mapping there. And now, if I hit that same key, I can trigger that with my keyboard. So that's very handy. Again, if you're wanting to perform with your patches, you can map the various controls to your keyboard, nice and simple, and set it up to be whatever you need it to be. The MIDI map is the same kind of thing, except you'll notice that it's highlighting a lot of stuff blue. And this, instead of using your computer keyboard, if you have a MIDI controller connected, which I actually don't as I'm recording this, but you could, the various knobs and keys on your MIDI controller, you could use them in a very similar way to trigger different things. That I find that really handy for sliders and things of that nature. Enable debugging, that's just like a standard debugging tool. If I'm using this, I'm usually having problems. Like if I click that, again, I very, very rarely use it, but that opens up debugging options for, again, if you're running into problems. I would recommend, if you really want to dive into that, check out some of the reference material. Again, I don't use it a ton, and when I do, it's in very, very weirdly specific things. Moving over next. I'm going to skip over that one because it's not doing anything, but we'll come back to that. Show grid. You can have this be a grid of squares for lining stuff up. I like the dots myself, so I leave that off. Show objects over connection. So these are all the different objects, and you connect them with these little virtual patch cables. And if I show that there, you'll see that the patch cable is going over the object. But if I click that, now the object is on top of the patch cable. When you lock the patch, by default, it will always put the objects on top of the cable. So that's pretty nice and handy. There are different kinds of cables that represent different kinds of data. So I'm going to just throw in a little digital to audio converter for outputs. If I connected this cycle object here, you'll see it's got the this kind of striped one with the green and gray. This is for audio signals, whereas these solid gray ones are for messages and MIDI data, things like that. So these will be the most common ones you use. Let's say MC. I always goof that. New object, multi-channel.pack. The other one, I think we'll be talking about some multi-channel stuff later, but that's kind of a blue and gray one as well. Those are, it's a bit thicker as well. Those are the main ones that we're going to use. I'm not going to play around with multi-channel stuff now, but that's what we've got going on right there. Patcher windows, we don't have any sub-patchers here. But you can make patches within patches, which is, again, very handy for organizing stuff and making it nice. But you can play around with stuff, get new views, things like that. Again, I don't really use that a lot, so it's there. Presentation mode, I will use all the time. If I click on this, you'll notice a lot of stuff goes away. So this is used for, again, making that handy little user interface for anyone using your patches. If you right-click on an object, you'll see that there's an add to presentation or Control/Command-Shift-P. And if you do that, you'll notice it kind of gets this outline here, and I'll do it on this one as well. And then whenever you go into presentation mode, only the things that you've added to the presentation are there, and you don't see any of the connections. So again, it's useful for making a interface. You can also in the inspector, if you don't have anything selected, click the patch inspector, and there's an option in here that says open in presentation. Where is it? Open in presentation. If you toggle this, then whenever you open the patch, it'll default to opening in this presentation mode. So that'll be something that we do kind of at the very end whenever you're turning in your projects, have a user interface with your presentation mode. Enable operate while unlocked. I never use this. So normally the patch isn't going to be doing stuff when it's unlocked. When it's unlocked, this is when you can move stuff around, change connections. If I lock it, then I can't move stuff. Things are there. I can interact with the interface elements when it's locked, but again, I can't move things. But when you've enabled this operate while unlocked, the patch will start to be computing things while it's unlocked. And that can run into issues because if you're in the process of moving things around, connecting and disconnecting things, all of a sudden you can break what's happening or have really loud, problematic sounds in your ears, and it's not a good time. So I would personally never recommend enabling this, but it is an option there if that's how you like to work. All right, last but not least for this section, we've got a bunch of stuff over here on the left side, and these are things that you can pull into your patch and use, similar to what we have up here, but a little less generic. So I'm going to actually go from the top to the bottom. The first one is the package manager. This is where you can install different packages online. These are kind of like plugins and things, that collections of objects that people have made, and it's been approved by Cycling74 and Max to be used here. So I'm just gonna, this one, some of them are by Cycling74, but it's a collection of objects that you can then use in your stuff. So some of these are specific to general OSs. Actually, this must be a new one because I don't have it installed here. But you'll get like this is incompatible with your computer and it won't let you install it. But you can just install it, and then sometimes you have to restart Max, but once it's installed, you can then use these various objects for whatever you want. So I've installed Beam for Max by ShowSync, and there's a little description about what it does. So there's a lot of stuff we can check out there. If I just Beam, and then these are all of the objects in Beam, so we could, use that if you wanted. Down here, this Max is not responding. All right. If we click here, the file browser, this is where Max can access various files on your computer in order to pull stuff in and use them. That's how it works with the various add-ons, as it downloads them to a folder on your computer, and then Max knows how to get to that. So you can add specific files and packages and just different pathways, and basically just lets Max have access to it so it can be used. Whenever you start it up, you'll notice a little window here is loading as it's going through all of the file directories it has and just making sure that it has access to them. Objects. This is basically all of those objects that you have access to, broken up by collection. You'll see I have a lot of stuff here installed. So, if I just wanted to look at one, how about Max for Live? Here's a whole bunch of Max for Live objects. I can just click and drag it in, and boom, there you've got it. It's nice and handy. Rather than having to remember what they are, you could find them right here just with that Objects tab. Audio. These are audio files. So by default, there's going to be a collection of audio files that you can use in Max. You can also load things in to be used, again, through the file browser to find things. So again, you can just click and drag it, and now there's an audio file right here. This is just kind of a standard one. If I disconnect it from here, connect it to there. Helps if I turn up the sound. So again, that's just some sound sources you can use right there. Video, same kind of thing. I like the chickens. Oh, I needed to have a another object there, but if we just go into Visi and do the projector, now I can go into our videos. Again, I like the chickens. There's some chickens. That's the whole thing. So again, video, you can do that with Max as well. Super fun. Going down here, images, they're still images, videos. Again, they're just things that you can use. Snippets are some bits of code. So basically you can take your patch and save it as a snippet and just pull it out to use later. So again, there's a whole bunch of things I've got in here. Just again, a whole bunch of snippets of different things, and just to make life easy, I'll pick one. We can just drag and drop it, and then boom, here's a snippet of a patch. Boom, nice and easy. So if you have something you find yourself using a lot, you can save it as a snippet and easily drag and drop it into what you do. Plugins are, well, like audio plugins that you would use in a DAW. You can use them in Max. So if you've got any there, you can drag and drop them. So, if I wanted to use Analog Lab from Arturia, drag and drop it in. It's probably going to get a little angry for a second. But it can load up a plugin and you can control a lot of things. It doesn't have like the default GUI, but again, you can use plugins and control it there. I'm going to delete that. Okay, we're not going to talk about Max for Live pretty much at all in this class, so I'm going to skip over that. This is where you can have Max for Live objects to use. Visi is some pre-made things that are, again, all video related. That's where I pulled out that video file player, but these are all video related things for playing back, editing, doing some video processing. Beep, same kind of thing, but with audio. So again, if you you want to play around with some LFO stuff, well, here's a few LFO things. You can just drag and drop it. It's got a little graphic interface already. You can play around with it. There you go. And then you can also create a collection of stuff. Again, it's handy. I don't use that one as much. But that's all of the things in the basic Max patcher here. So I'm going to, in this video, I'm going to have a few more shorter ones that we're going to kind of start diving into the content. But that's the important things that you will see here in the Max window. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.